In today's video, we'll cover everything you need to know or wanted to know about chuckawallas, including the different species, the different geographic variants, and we'll cover chuckawallas in the wild. Since I live in Phoenix, Arizona, here's the Phoenix Mountain Preserves. You'll see people hike on the trails right by the chuckawallas out basking. But we'll also cover their breeding. And if you have my book on iguanas of the world, you'll know the chuckawallas, as shown on the back of the cover, are in the iguanid family and in the genus Ceramelis. There's just a few of the pictures from my book showing the area where chuckawallas are found, information on diet, and then some of the different chuckawallas. As shown in these pictures, Ceramelis ater is the only species of chuckawalla found in the United States. There are multiple different geographic variants, such as this carrot-tailed, but notice the female doesn't have the same coloration. Farther south of Phoenix, chuckawallas have a white tail, and northern in the state, in Page, a completely different look. This is a chuckawalla from Nevada and San Diego County, the granite chuckawalla. The female granite chuckawalla is basically just tan. The other 4 species of chuckawalla are all found in Mexico. The Angel Island chuckawalla, Ceramelis hispidus, is the second largest species behind Ceramelis varius. Might be hard to see, but this guy's just under 2 feet. The Angel Island chuckawalla, Ceramelis hispidus, grows to about 2 feet, while the San Esteban, Ceramelis varius, grows to about 30 inches, being the largest of all the chuckawallas. The other 2 Mexican species, Slevini and Clobberi, are much smaller. The common chuckawalla, Ceramelis ater, found in Arizona, Nevada, California, and Utah, only grows to about 16 inches. It's also found in northern Mexico. But the only Mexican species typically available in the pet trade are hispidus and varius. And varius are on the U.S. endangered species list and can't be sold across state lines. At an Arizona Reptile Expo, if you're an Arizona resident, you could pick one up for $600. On the other hand, hispidus is not on the U.S. endangered species list and can readily be bred and sold across state lines. This is a gravid female, and they'll lay up to about 25 eggs. Unfortunately, some keepers have crossed hispidus and varius. Hybrids aren't covered under the U.S. endangered species list, so they can be sold freely across state lines. And you see them advertised as calicos, a cross between Angel Island and San Esteban Island chuckawallas. What you're seeing now is habitat in Arizona for the common chuckawalla. The brittle bush, all the yellow flowers, are one of their food sources, as are Palo Verde flowers and any of the other vegetation that grows in the area. Arizona prohibits the sale or trade of any of its native reptiles, including the chuckawalla. However, with a valid hunting license, you can take or kill up to 4 specimens and have in your possession 4 chuckawallas. Here, a young male enjoys the buds on a Palo Verde tree. If you breed your native Arizona chuckawalla, you have 12 months to give away the hatchlings. They cannot be sold or traded. If you have in your possession over 4 Chuckwallas after this 12-month period, you may be cited. The carrot-tailed Chuckwalla, shown here, cannot be collected in South Mountain Park. Technically, it's illegal to sell any native Arizona reptile, even outside of Arizona. However, I'm not aware of the state pursuing prosecution from anyone advertising them for sale outside of the state. Chuckwallas are sexually dimorphic, meaning males and females look different. This female carrot-tailed Chuckwalla doesn't have the orange tail, and its overall color is kind of drab compared with the dark black and orange tail of the male. Female. Female. Easy to distinguish. Here's a juvenile of the carrot-tailed Chuckwalla, and juveniles look completely different than the adults. And most of the juveniles of just about all the species look very similar, but they don't look like the adults. Here is a San Diego County Chuckwalla. Looks like a female, just kind of tan, unlike the granite male. And here we're back in Arizona, and this will be the redback Chuckwalla. You see the habitat that they live in, and there's a Chuckwalla, the male with a red back and white tail, black head. Chuckwallas can be found on all the different mountain ranges around Phoenix, but there may be different color variations depending on the mountain range and where they're found. All the Ceramelis ater are sexually dimorphic, unlike the Mexican Chuckwallas that can look very similar. Hispidus males and females look the same, as do various. Here's a female on that same mountain range with where that redback was found. You'll see again, instead of the dark black, kind of grayish brown, and it doesn't have the orange back. Tried to offer it some Palo Verde blooms, but it ran away. But there she is. The color and appearance of Chuckwallas can vary significantly based on age, sex, and temperature, and geographically depending where they're found. Well, there used to be a number of different subspecies recognized. Now, all these different color-looking Chuckwallas are all the same species, Ceramelis ater. The common Chuckwalla. Can you tell that's a female? And that's a male? See a little red on that back? Not on that one. That's the female again. If you just see him in the crevice, sometimes it's hard to tell, but that one's obviously a male. There's one of the white-tailed Chuckwallas with a black body, and that's a juvenile carrot tail that was just coming into its color. And that's one from up near Page, Glen Canyon. Like I say, it used to be a separate subspecies. Looks similar to some of the ones in Nevada. And as you look for Chuckwallas, you may see earless lizards, horned lizards, desert spiny-tailed lizards, and of course different snakes. But one of the common lizards you'll see in the flatlands are desert iguanas. Desert iguanas, like Chuckwallas, are mainly vegetarians, and they share a lot of the same habitat. And often you'll see people keep them together, unlike the collared lizard here that was found in the white tanks along with this Chuckwalla. If you live within their natural range, an outdoor setup is best. Indoors, you require UVB lights, rocks hides, temperature in the 80s, and warmer basking sites. I've successfully maintained Angel Island Chuckwallas and San Diego County Chuckwallas in Phoenix, Arizona, which is outside their natural range without any supplemental heat. They've experienced temperatures from well below freezing to over 120. People breeding San Esteban Island iguanas typically do it indoors or in outdoor pens with supplemental heat. A lot just depends on individual setups and conditions. These Hispidus are on a south-facing wall with bricks and block that absorb heat even during the cool winter months. A number of years ago, I obtained a one-day hunting permit to acquire some San Diego County Chuckwallas that I maintained in this outdoor pen where I now maintain Uromastyx. It has metal flashing on the sides and an overlap at the top of the block so that the lizards can't climb out. The San Diego County Chuckwallas proved to be much more skittish than most Chuckwallas, but they successfully bred and hatched out naturally in my outdoor pen. They ate the flowers from the Tacoma stands in the pen, and the hatchlings ended up hiding underneath the metal flashing and, of course, in the rocks. Unfortunately, I've found coach whips and roadrunners in the pen, and none of the hatchlings survived more than a few months. The Angel Island Chuckwallas are much more friendly than the San Diego County Chuckwallas or the San Esteban Island Chuckwallas. Their outdoor enclosure is enclosed with welded wire, so no predators can get in there to them. Typically, around June, they'll dig and lay anywhere from about a dozen to 25 eggs. This is a larger clutch size than the common Chuckwalla, and they only lay one clutch per year. It's said in the wild they may only lay a clutch every couple years, but the eggs are collected for incubation. Eggs are incubated on vermiculite or perlite or peat moss at a temperature in the mid to upper 80s. A drop at night is fine. A constant temperature should be about 86. Check where she's dug her nest. After she finishes, you'd never be able to tell eggs were laid there. The perlite or peat moss that I use for incubation usually contains enough moisture when I open a new bag. There should be some moisture in the incubation medium. Here I just use the dirt. There's peat moss. Some moisture, but it should not be wet. You'll see some of these eggs have dried up or gone bad for different reasons. And after a couple months, you'll get some hatchlings. I typically never add water during the incubation period. However, if it gets too dry and eggs start to shrivel up, you might need to add a little. Hatchlings are easy to care for, and I raise them indoors. Temperature in the mid-80s, basking spot that may reach 100. Angel Island Chuckwallas are not sexually dimorphic. They look very similar, but they can be sexed based on the femoral pores of the male. Shown here is a male, and here's the male with the waxy secretions during breeding. This is a picture of a female. Common Chuckwallas can be sexed the same way based on femoral pores or hemipenal bulge. Chuckwallas are basically vegetarians. Here I just plucked a few weeds out of my yard to feed the Chuckwalla. The diet of a green iguana, a Chuckwalla, or a tortoise is pretty much similar. Well, I've shown them eat some of their native vegetation. If you don't have that, no problem. You can feed them hibiscus flowers, rose petals, or here they're eating green leaf lettuce. And yes, I sometimes keep some different iguana species in with my Chuckwallas. That's a San Esteban Island iguana, and you'll note that Chuckwallas will eat the occasional insect if offered, but it shouldn't be a very big part of their diet. Here I feed my Chuckwalla just some chopped up carrots, and they'll eagerly be accepted. I'll slice up zucchini, cactus pads, just about anything. Hibiscus leaves, mulberry tree leaves, weeds growing in the yard, green leaf, red leaf, and even romaine lettuce. Well, my Angel Island Chuckwallas probably don't need a winter cool down to breed. The Chuckwallas from Phoenix, where I live, obviously hibernate several months in the winter. They emerge in spring, begin eating all the fresh flowers and putting on weight before breeding and laying eggs. If your Chuckwalla comes from an area where they naturally hibernate, a cool down period is probably beneficial, and a temperature about 55, gradually achieved over a couple weeks, may be beneficial to the long-term health and breeding of your Chuckwalla. The cool down should be done gradually to ensure that the Chuckwalla is able to digest all the food in its gut. And in the spring, the warm-up should be done the same way, gradually, and water should be offered to ensure it can be well hydrated. In captivity, a shorter brumation may be all that's required, maybe 30 days. And of course, a sick or injured animal should not be hibernated. Chuckwalla can live 15 or 20 years, and males are territorial, so I keep them either pairs or trios. But they can be a great pet. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and have a great day. And if you make it out to Phoenix, come check out the Chuckwallas. And if you don't see Chuckwallas, the flowers and mountains are still spectacular.